right, well, welcome to this week's episode of Watershed Talks. How you doing, Tim?
I'm doing great.
And we have...
Matt.
Hello.
Yeah, we need our...
guy in the chair.
Our mythic... who do like professional podcasts to have that they like... It's a booker, right? A book or a PR, a publicist. I don't know the right term, but they like, they get the guest in, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure like all the like real big professional podcasts out there have somebody. We need that.
Right.
We need a booker, an agent maybe. I don't know. I don't know the right term.
Right. When you were saying that, I'm thinking like, and now let's go to Matt for the weather.
Well, it is quite pleasant. It's a nice spring day.
Yes, it actually does look good, doesn't it? So anyways, well, we're going to dive into your sermon this week, Tim, and it's a special moment because it's the first time I've ever disagreed with you.
Yes.
When you're preaching. So,
good. Okay, that's great.
And obviously I don't mean like 100%, but I have some countering thoughts. So we'll get there. Oh, is that...
Dun, dun, dun.
All right. Okay, so what's funny about this is this sermon was one that I was not... There seemed like there was something off about it. Like, and pastors have that every once in a while. Probably didn't help that I was sick the day before, so I didn't have the prep time that I really needed to do. But I had a lot of responses from people saying, good sermon, things like that. You get that. Yeah. But at the same time, as a preacher, sometimes you just know that was a 6 out of 10.
Yeah. And not, that. Just more theological.
Yeah, right.
Not that you were like some awful delivery. In fact, it was, it felt like people were really listening and all those kinds of things. But I'm mostly being playful. But I do have some challenging, gentle, polite pushbacks. But we'll get into it. So why don't you tell us where we're at in Scripture and maybe hit us with just the main idea.
Yeah, so we're going to be in Matthew chapter 11, verses 28 through 29. And we're going to be talking about the rest that Jesus promises us, and it's talking about He will give you rest when you're weary, and I will also talk about a little bit about how we were made for a purpose, and when we start to live into that purpose of what God called us to be, then we'll actually find more rest within our life.
Well, why don't we go ahead? I mean, it's not too long, 2 verses. You want to go ahead and read it for us?
Yeah.
I think that'd be good. What translation you come in with?
So this is the NIV. That's my go-to for everything.
Matt, what's your go-to translation? We may have already done this.
I'm King James Version.
I know you are. On our Friday studies.
Yes.
King James is well known as being the most beautiful one to read out loud, and that's why there's like conspiracy theories that Shakespeare helped with it because in fact there's a whole thing in Psalm 46 that if you go to like the 46th word or something, it says shake and then spear. It's like coded in there. I can't remember. You can look it up. But
dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, I know another one. Anyways, well, I interrupted you. Mine, I love the ESV. So anyways, here we go. Matthew chapter 11, 28 and 29. Let's hear it.
Okay. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light.
Okay. So, what was your main takeaway there, Tim?
Yeah, so oftentimes what I do is I have lots of scriptures that kind of back up and so on. And so with this one, I really didn't. The main reason is because I really just kind of focused on kind of going deeper into what this is getting into. And so what I did was I kind of took the idea of being weary and sort of generalized it to everybody. Everybody has a time in their life where they're not just tired, you just don't need a nap or a vacation. You're actually depleted. Yeah. And that's like something that you feel it in your bones. It's physically, socially, spiritually, mentally. We can all relate to that.
And I'm imagining we're going to get to this idea of like needing actual rest in our life, but I think a lot of people feel that they don't have any time.
Yeah.
And I think that there's truth to that, and I think that's something we need to look at. But I also think that's different than actually being bone weary, exhausted. Does that make sense at all?
Yeah, and that's actually one of the things that I touched on, because being busy in life, it's going to be something that everybody deals with, you know? And so the idea is not necessarily, are we busy? Are we tired? But is there a way that in our busyness, we can actually feel refreshed?
Right. And so when we take it back to the scripture, and he's saying that we're struggling, we're carrying heavy loads, he will give us rest. And he says, you know, in some translations, that my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Now, I don't know about y'all, but anytime I've ever heard that, I'm like, what?
Right,
Like, what are you talking about? Like, bearing the yoke of Christ is easy and light?
Yeah.
Like, what are your thoughts around that? Like, how, I mean, isn't that sort of a DJ music stop moment? Like, like what?
Well, you know, I think that a lot of people, when they come to Christ or they think about Christianity, they think that it's going to be an easy road. Christians have it no easier than anyone else. And life is hard.
Yeah.
You know, life can be miserable. And so what he does is he basically says, in this journey called life, you're always going to be weighed down. But when there's two people pulling together in the same direction, it's a little bit easier. Well, not a little bit, but it's quite a bit easier to carry on and to walk forward.
So you see the sort of ease there is related to that we're sharing it.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
all right.
and it's relative ease, because it's easier than trying to hold it all on your own, or trying to carry it all on your own.
Okay. Well, so if you were going to give us your one main takeaway from the sermon, you know, the Tim truth of the day. No, I know you're really handing us over the message from God that you have. What is that one main takeaway though? Like, what is the main idea here for us?
Yeah, this is actually the one thing that I struggled with in this sermon this week, because I wasn't able to fully flesh out what is the main thing.
Okay.
And sometimes you have that, you know, and you just, it's like, okay, Holy Spirit, I'm going to need you today. But one of the things that really struck me, and I hope I was able to convey this, but in our lives, a lot of the weariness comes from us trying to pretend that we're something that we're not.
I like that. Yeah, go say that for those who didn't hear you preach. Just kind of expand on what you mean there.
During the sermon, I gave an example of me when I first got my calling and looking around at all these other pastors out there and saying, okay, well, that pastor's successful and that one is, and saying, okay, so in order to be successful, then I need to be that coach-like pastor, uses sports analogies, or I need to be the academic pastor, I need to be that manly man pastor, you know, all these different pastors that you see. And I tried those on, and it was so exhausting because it wasn't natural. And so that weariness is when you're trying to fit a mold, or you're trying to pretend you are something that you're not. And really it's a sin against God too, because you're saying, God, you didn't make me good enough. And so I'm going to change who I am to fit what I think I should be.
Right. Yeah. I mean, come on. How many of us have done that, are doing that?
Oh my gosh.
This almost unconscious way of going about life where we're just trying to be good and right and successful, and what are we going to do? We're going to model after what seems to be working out there. Of course, the danger is, I don't know, not to throw any of my fellow preachers under the bus, but as we are learning from many a documentary, the big mega successful pastors over the years are not necessarily behavior we want to model.
Right. Yeah.
There's stuff going on behind the scenes, and things that I think we've got to be really careful of looking at something that has a lot of fame, because that has not turned out to be the most healthy way to live.
Correct.
So,
Yeah.
I like your point on this. One way that we can get worn down is if we're trying to be somebody we're not. Help us go, though. Continue here with this idea of what about the rest? So what are you taking this to mean as far as how we find this rest, and how important is the rest?
Right. So this is, if I were to change the sermon in any way, I would have brought it back to the story of Adam and Eve. And the idea with that is God made Adam and Eve without sin, and that was their natural state of being. And when you were living in right relationship with God and with each other, and you're living in that natural state of being with, being perfect without sin, then that itself is the rest that we desire.
Yeah.
It's to be that's entirely natural.
Right. And I think that's where the yoke is light and easy.
Exactly.
Yeah. Epiphanius, I can never say his name. Epiphanius. He has an interesting quote. He says, but if the yoke of Christ is so agreeable and light, how is it that divine religion seems so harsh and bitter to some people? And he says, it is bitter to some because the heart that has been tainted by earthly desires cannot love heavenly things. It has not yet come fully to Christ, so that it can take up his yoke and learn about gentleness and humility. Hence, dear friends, from the teaching of our Lord, a person must be gentle and humble of heart, or the yoke will not be light.
Right.
So I think that's kind of some of what you're getting to there, is that when we're burdened with sin and sinful patterns of behavior that are habitual, then that's another way. And I would think somewhere in there, it's not one that we normally talk about. We tend to go to sexual stuff, but trying to be somebody that we're not, there's some level of sin there. I don't know, idol worship, or I don't know what it would be, but there's something going on there that's sinful in and of itself. We tend to put all the focus on sex stuff, but sex, drugs, and rock and roll, right?
Yeah.
But right. I mean, wouldn't you think if you're actively living out of such inauthenticity that somehow there's sin there, right?
It doesn't seem natural.
Right.
Again, and so
true selves, I think.
Right.
Our true self. Go.
Well, and so part of this too is the idea that when you're yoked up with Christ, when you're on your own, you're going to follow whatever your eyes follow, and so you're going to walk toward things that probably aren't the best things in your life, because we are naturally tainted by that sin, and we have that desire to please ourselves and prop ourselves up there. But when we're yoked with Christ, then he gently guides us in that right direction. And one of the things that I think is one of the most profound things I've ever learned about Christianity is that when we become a Christian, it's not so much like, oh my gosh, it's a huge life. I mean, it's a huge life change, but what is, to put simply, what it is the desires of our heart are changing. And we desire what he desires. Whereas before, when we're walking alone, we desire what we desire.
Right.
And so when we desire what he desires, then it brings us back to that natural state again.
Right.
And we start to walk in a way that just feels authentic and genuine. And that's when you have the abundant life.
Yeah. Metanoete. So help
God bless
me.
you.
That's the Greek word that's often translated as repent. But really, it doesn't mean the finger shaking shame that we tend to hear when we hear repent. It's just a change. It's just that change that you're talking about. That programming and just sort of, and it's hard. I mean, people listening, and I know my own self are, but that didn't happen when I became a Christian. What am I doing wrong? Am I not really a Christian? Right? I didn't just immediately stop wanting these other things, and so help me understand at least your perspective on how rest plays a role in this idea of being our true self in God.
Right. And so the things that exhaust us is when we are striving for things that aren't godly, when we're trying to prove our worth, when we hear those words like "you're not enough." When we have shame in our life because we don't feel like we measure up, when we're trying to perform all the time, like putting on a mask in a play, all these things are things that cause us a lot of extra energy, not just physical, emotional. It's multifaceted, and so when we follow Christ, but basically what he does is he takes all those things and says, "We're going to just tear that up, and you don't have to do that anymore because your life is not your own anymore. You surrendered to me, and this is where you're going to go, and it's freedom from all those other things, because the number one thing that you do then is you just put your eyes toward Jesus and walk in that direction. And so it's kind of like, I don't care what you have to say about that. I respect your opinion, but this is where I'm going. And it's, in a way, it's easier because it's, the path that you're on, the direction, you have a foundation and stability in your life. And I mean, 4,000 years of people who are faithful and believers. I mean, you see this throughout history. When you have those morals, guidelines, when you have that strong belief, life is just exponentially better.
Okay, so how about I just dive into my pushback?
Okay.
Let's
go
so I'll do the Iowa sandwich of, what did they call it?
Crap sandwich.
Yeah, right. So start with the compliment. I do really like this idea of that if we are, because he's saying, come to me, right? Come to me. So if we are taking on Christ's yoke, if we are living out of authentic walking with him, I agree with you that anything we do can be rewarding and restful in that sense, right? How many hours have I spent working dough? And sometimes I'm physically tired, but it's something that's in, what's the word? It's offering like a catharsis to my actual soul. Yeah. So I hear you on that. My pushback is that, to me, when we live in a society that for so long has filled the schedule with more and more and more and more activity, I'm reticent to take a verse like this and find a way to justify staying just as busy as you are.
Yeah.
Right? Like, to me, one of the things that church, I would say in like my top 5 criticisms of church, is how we have not modeled Sabbath. Mm-hmm. We do not model Sabbath. The pastors don't. There's all sorts of understandable reasons. We get this sort of reputation of we only work one day a week, but it's not true. And also the church itself and our culture itself, just nobody really. It's so against, like, to even suggest, like, like, for real, take a whole day off, like, for real. Yeah. Do nothing except family time and God time. Mm-hmm. Like, it just sounds insane. Like, who does that?
Yeah. That is true.
And so that's really all it is. My gentle pushback is that I would want to emphasize the need to model Sabbath. I mean, you remember that these Bible books that we read were not written with chapter and verse. And the very next section is the Pharisees and Sadducees coming at Jesus about him working on the Sabbath. The very next passage is the beginning of chapter 12, and they're coming at him about the typical thing, like, your disciples are breaking the law of the Sabbath, and we read this other places. You healed on the Sabbath, and even later in 12, they come at him for that. And he turns right around and hits them with examples of, when King David broke the Sabbath to eat. And so, here we have Christ, like, pointing out, like, stop it.
Right.
You're going to do some stuff on the Sabbath, and it's okay, if ... right?
Yeah.
Does it make sense?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So I think if we're really looking at the text, we see that like even Jesus is saying, it's okay to do some stuff on the Sabbath, but I think the thing is he also had a regular practice of actually modeling Sabbath, regardless of whether it was on Saturday or not. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
don't you believe that he did?
Yeah, and so I just want to clarify here. You did not perform the Iowa Nice crap sandwich. You gave me you did well here, and then justifying but what you really did was a Hegelian, thesis,
a
antithesis.
dialectic. Well, I'm not done.
Synthesis. Oh,
I'm not
okay.
done. We'll get to the synthesis.
Okay.
Sorry.
No,
Well, I wanted to give you a moment
But no.
to rebuttal. I wanted to give you a chance to come back. So that's it. I just want to ring the bell for. I mean, make it a question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think people take as much rest as they need to?
No. I mean, yeah, no. And the previous section was the Pharisees. It's a rebuttal against the Pharisees and their rules and things like that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you look at Jewish people and they take the whole like Friday all the way to Friday night to Saturday night.
Right.
And they really don't do anything. And
the Orthodox, traditional,
And there's a reason why the Jewish, people, by and large, are very successful. One is they own their mistakes and they learn from it and move on. But two, they do have these rules and ways of living.
Yeah. What is it that we miss out on when we don't have this as a regular practice? What did Jesus have? And I like how you're even pointing out the Jewish people as a whole. What do you get out of regular Sabbath rest?
Right.
What do y'all think? What are we missing? We never really have it, or very, very rarely. What would you say?
Maybe I don't know, maybe real peace, that, it's that time of just like super peace of, maybe that's where you find true rest,
He just made me see like a cartoon character, Super Peace.
Super peace!
Okay.
I don't know,
I think it's fascinating that's even hard to think of it. I think it shows how addicted we are to business and constant doing.
Well, yeah, I'm so guilty of it because after this, hop into the car, throw on music. Oh, there's silence. Throw on a podcast.
Believe me, I am king of sinners on this one. I fill every moment with something. Now, for Lent, I've been doing one thing at a time, so I haven't had 2 or 3 things going, but I still am having like one thing almost at all the times. But what are your thoughts, Tim, around like what are we missing when we don't have this?
So it is hard to talk about what we're missing because again we live in a culture that was Puritan work ethic. We have married right. Yeah, it's like the more we do, the more like Christian we are, and so part of us when we're in silence and we're just simply being it's like we're doing something wrong. Like I should be doing this. I mean,
which to finish the sandwich, that is what I loved that you put out for everyone is that
I'm writing this down on my note.
Well, because what you just said is a part of what's the driving addiction is whether it's shame or I should be like this. I should be like that person. I should be doing what they do. I don't want to be seen as blank, blank, blank. And so what I did love was that you honed in on how essentially like one thing about being a Christian is being able to let go of all that. And I don't know if you said it, but what I heard was there's where the yoke, the burden is lifted. There's where, and I fully love that part. I just also wanted to say, But take some time off.
Yeah, well, that too, and so like what I'll do is I'll just share. A few weeks ago, we went on a family vacation, and we've done family vacations. Every other year we try to do a big one. It's harder when the kids kind of get older because of schedules and stuff like that. But for this last one that we did, we made it a goal that there was no schedule. No schedule at all.
Interesting.
And so there's when you wake up and you're like, we're gonna do this, but if it takes us 30 minutes extra to get there, or if we see something on the side of the road that we want to go see a big ball of yarn or something, we're good to do it. I mean, there's a lot of freedom in that, and it's a whole kind of a mind shift in a way because you're. And so
I love that. That's that could be your practice for today.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Go just visit the big ball of yarn,
like a no schedule, an actual no schedule day off. Yeah, that's awesome.
So this is actually funny that you mentioned this because I was at I officiated a wedding 2 weeks ago, and so I was there the Friday night, and this is Grinnell, Iowa. We live in Spencer, so it's like 3.5 hours away. So I got there, did the rehearsal, had dinner with them. I ate so much food. I was okay after that. But then that morning, I didn't have anything to do from, time I woke up till 3 o'clock when, we had to get ready for the wedding. And so what I did that day was I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go find the thrift shops that are kind of cool.
Nice.
And I found all these places, and then I was like, I've got a little bit of time here. I was talking to the cash register lady. I'm like, what's one thing that if I'm not from this area, I should definitely go see.
Right.
And she said, well, there's this estate sale kind of things, they, blah, blah, blah. And so I went to that, and I walked around there, and I enjoyed it so much that I walked around it a second time, even though I wasn't going to buy anything else, and just sometimes if you have a day without anything going on, it's so relaxing.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I love it. Matt, you seem, people can't see you, but you seem just chomping at the bit. You've grabbed a Bible, you've looked something up. What's going on, buddy?
I was blanking on their names, so I had to remember it. But what I was going to say is we've become, especially in, the West, or in our Christian, we've become a bunch of Marthas.
Martha.
Nice one.
What we need to be is, Martha was, technically looking in, she was in the right. She was doing all the work, making sure people were fed, making sure everything.
Yes,
but we need to spend time as Mary sitting, listening to...
Preach it.
Listening to Jesus.
100%.
Sitting at the feet of Jesus. So.
How did we not think of that story? That's awesome. But
slow
that's a great
clap,
example.
Slow clap.
One thing that you didn't realize that you were taking it to a place that I wanted to get to. So
I realized it. We're just in sync.
Yes. Back to that Greek word, anapausis. One of the things inside that word is that it is about place, and it is about finding rest in place, that it's a fixed habitation or a fixed place of rest. And to me, that really speaks to me. And your story of just meandering and wandering and asking somebody about, where's the place to see here, and you even multiple times, you found rest in a place. And I think that's something that I would highly encourage. I guess we're kind of getting to our practices, that this place that we live in, Spencer, Clay County, Northwest Iowa, there's a lot of beautiful, special things here. There's the surf shops and the different places, the hiking trails, and when we're how many people have years of this level of busyness and they don't even it has surprised me how many people that are local that don't even know where Kindlespire is.
That's me.
Haven't you ever been there? Right? Or there's other spots around here. There's a awesome museum in Laverne, Minnesota, on the way to Sioux Falls.
What?
Totally free. It's it has an amazing there's a National Geographic photographer that's from that town, and the whole basement floor is an art exhibit of his art. And then all the other, it's a big house that was donated to become this free museum, and all the other floors are exhibits from every war going back to, I think, the Civil War.
Wow.
It might not go all the way back that far. My memory could fail me there, but it's like on the way to Sioux Falls, like you just stop, walk in, And so I'm probably sounding kind of judgmental and critical of those, but like we all do this, we miss out on. That's what I was getting to, was answering my own question. One of the things we miss out on is the beauty and the wonder and the specialness of the very place that God has us in.
That is true. Yeah.
Right? Because think about, where are we when we're on the phone constantly, or we're in TV constantly, or even just constantly working our to-do list?
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So I kind of love that the Greek has that in there, this idea of like finding rest in the place itself. Okay, well, so then I guess we kind of Forrest Gumped our way into our practices. Did you have a different one, Tim, or this scheduleless day? Is that one of them? Or
well, I think to schedule one day of rest is almost too much for most of us to bite off. But one of the things that I've done is I like driving in the country out here.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
There you go.
So
place.
yeah, and so one of the things that I've done is, like, if I'm picking up Beckett from school up in Milford and stuff, we'll take some gravel roads on the way back and just look at it.
Yeah.
And, but I think part of this, the one practice that I could really encourage everybody to do is, if you're scheduling in, most people have some sort of schedule that they have. If you're intentional about scheduling an hour where there's nothing, and don't fill that up with work, but
right?
Fill that up with something. And I'm guilty of this too. We love going on hikes.
Yeah.
When was the last time we went on a hike?
Yeah, it gets away from you, especially as your kids get older.
Right.
It really does, yeah.
And then you look back at your summer and it's like, well, we got this great beach just 20 miles north of us.
Right, the river, all sorts of stuff. So, Matt, do you have a practice for us?
No,
any of this?
I like all that you have said, and I definitely want to take that to heart and do it. Actually apply it and go to these places.
A Nike practice. Just do it.
Just do it. Come on.
I bet they can be connected, Tim. I bet if we will take time to have an unscheduled hour, maybe we go out and we rediscover or discover some of the beauty of the place we're in. I bet a part of what would happen is God helps us to see where we're not living out how he wants us to be. I bet it would all kind of come together, don't you think? I would imagine that it might all work in a unifying fashion.
But I don't think it's going to come all at once.
No.
I think we are so pre-programmed to be busy. This actually has to be a habit or routine that we do routinely. And that's a little redundant.
Right. Yeah. Well, and you have to break the myth that if it's not productive, it's not good.
Exactly.
You have to let go of, like, it's not necessarily, that you, again, back to all that stuff, winning and coming out on top. Like, it's just being in the moment with God. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. We struggle with it.
Yeah. And it's such a cultural thing, because if you go to other cultures, you see people who are just like free with their time. And it's like, because they just are, it's like living in the moment. And it's like,
Yeah, when I've done mission trips to some of the Native American reservations, the schedule is not at all fixed. Like, back to your scheduleless thing, like, because they have a culture of whoever they're with is the most important thing. And so whatever's coming next, the schedule doesn't matter. It's they'll get there when they get there, which sometimes when you're sitting around with 2x4s and power tools and wondering what to do. Yeah. But anyway, so
with these practices, let this talk
shape our walk.
Shape our walk.
Okay. I love how you've become like the pitch man for the sign off.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
He's like,
I feel like this is perfect. Let's end it.